Hey everybody, it's Tony Contespati from GreatVocalMajority.com, YouTube channel and website blog, GreatVocalMajority.com. And today I want to show you the anatomy of a non-denial denial. This is Robby Mook. He likes to pronounce his name Mook. It's M-O-O-K. I pronounce that Mook. Anyway, Robby Mook works for Hillary Clinton, and I want to show you a series of non-denial denials that he makes. Here we go.
Donald Trump says that your campaign or the Democratic National Committee are behind the accusations against him of sexual misconduct. I know Secretary Clinton yesterday said the charge is inaccurate, but let me put it more narrowly. Have any of these women had any contact with your campaign or the DNC?
These accusations are not coming from our campaign.
But have they had any contact?
Not that I am aware of. I do not know about any contact. But
that's key. Not that I'm aware of. That's a qualifier. He's not saying no. He's saying he doesn't know. That's different than saying no. That's a non-denial denial. We'll continue.
But Jake, I think what's important to look at here is Donald Trump claimed yesterday he was going to go out and roll out his final plan for the.
See, now this is the pivot. Now it's no longer, I'm no longer focusing on whether or not my campaign has anything to do at all with these women coming out, and now we're going to go after Trump again. This is typical. This is nothing nefarious. This is what politicians do all the time. But the key thing to note was when he was asked directly whether or not these women were speaking to the people in his campaign, he did not make a categorical denial. He did not say absolutely not. He said, as far as I know. That means it could be. Here's another example of a non-denial denial.
In an email that was hacked by WikiLeaks, and I know that the talking point from the Clinton campaign is this is the Russians trying to infiltrate, but beyond that, there is the substance of this email. We learned that the King of Morocco wanted to contribute $12 million to the Clinton Foundation last year, but he only wanted to do it if he could get a face-to-face meeting with Hillary Clinton. Clinton advisor Huma Abedin wrote that the contribution was a non-starter if the king did not get a meeting with Hillary Clinton. Now, ultimately, Hillary Clinton did not make the trip to Morocco because the campaign had already started. But this does raise the kind of concerns that there is a pay-to-play. He wanted to meet with Hillary Clinton, $12 million for the foundation. I mean, doesn't this feed into one of the concerns that voters have about Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation?
Well, I'm glad you asked the question for that reason. It was known for a long time that the Clinton Foundation's conference was held in Morocco. It has been known for a very long time that Secretary Clinton chose not to attend that conference. So there isn't anything new here.
Well, Bill and Chelsea.
This is another way of them not denying. They use this is old news or there's nothing new here excuse. This is not true. We never knew. We never knew. The documentation is now there that Hillary Clinton was planning to go to Morocco if there was a $12 million tip thrown into the hat of the Clinton Foundation. We know that. Robby Mook is acting like, well, no, this is old news. This was just a scheduling issue. It wasn't a scheduling issue. It was $12 million at play here.
They did. But Secretary Clinton chose not to. And as you pointed out, this was an illegally stolen email put out there by the Russians because they want.
See, now it's an illegally stolen email put out there by the Russians. This is false. We do not know that the email was stolen by the Russians. The Director of National Intelligence, who controls 17 agencies, said that it is likely that it was stolen by the Russians. He has not affirmatively made the statement that it was the Russians. That's a very big difference. It may not seem like a big difference, but it is a big difference when you're a politician and you want to blame your opponent for being in cahoots with the Russians. So what Mook is doing here, he's combining a non-denial denial with an accusation of his own, which cannot be substantiated.
want the campaign to be about this. They want these sort of questions to be raised rather than talking about the real issues.
Well, this is a real issue. I mean, pay to play. If people don't like the idea of money going to the Clinton Foundation in exchange for access to the then former Secretary of State, I mean, you can understand why that would trouble people.
Absolutely, and it's not true. I'm glad you raised the question, because people should understand that never took place. Secretary Clinton always met the highest ethical standards when she was Secretary of State.
That's very important. Secretary Clinton always met the highest ethical standards when she was Secretary of State. What about when she wasn't Secretary of State? Notice how he qualifies everything. This is what you have to look forward to if this woman's elected president. She will dance on the line and go over the line of ethical behavior so much, you're going to see guys like this tap dance on national television every single week for 4 years.
When she was United States Senator, there were systems put in place to prevent exactly what you're talking about. And again, the Russians illegally stole these emails.
He does not know that. Again, he's making an unsubstantiated assertion that the Director of National Intelligence only said is likely, not proven.
Selectively dumping them out. I can't even verify whether the actual content in them is real, but this is the conversation they want us to have versus how Hillary's going to create jobs, how Hillary's going to help lower
Well, when
costs
Hillary
of
Clinton was
healthcare.
Secretary of State, and this is not from WikiLeaks, this is from a Freedom of Information Act request, when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State and the Haiti relief program was going on, and the State Department and the Clinton Foundation were working on that, emails were sent to the State Department in which people who were quote-unquote friends of Bill, FOB, were highlighted. Why would they be highlighted if it wasn't because cronies of the Clintons would be given access and contracts to help rebuild Haiti?
I can't comment on what might have happened to the State Department and what would have been highlighted or not. But
why can't you comment on it? He can't comment on it because he can't say anything that'll BS you into thinking that there was nothing there, because Jake Tapper just nailed him. That's what happened just there. That's what you just saw. Jake Tapper nailed this liar right on national television.
But again, the State Department has been clear repeatedly. There was never any special favors. Nobody has put up any evidence that any of this actually happened.
That is not true. We have seen evidence. Jake Tapper just told him what the evidence was. We also know that over half of the people who met with Clinton when she was Secretary of State were also major contributors to the Clinton Foundation. We know these things. That is the evidence. They go on television and they lie and they say there is no evidence.
And the Obama White House and the Department of State put in the highest possible ethical standards.
He said that the Obama administration put in the highest possible ethical standards. The Obama administration and Hillary Clinton agreed to a set of standards, and Hillary Clinton did not abide by those standards. That is an established fact. But he's not mentioning that. He's acting like the Obama administration's criteria for Hillary Clinton to become Secretary of State were met by Hillary Clinton when they weren't.
And there's never been any evidence of any pay-to-play at all.
We talked about this before the last debate, but two Democratic operatives, Robert Creamer and Scott Fovel, were caught on tape talking about instigating violence at a Trump rally in Fovel's case. The last time we spoke, you said any violence is unacceptable. Have you looked into whether or not Democratic operatives paid by the Democratic National Committee were actually instigating these horrific actions, these violent actions we saw at Trump rallies? I mean, I'm sure you would agree. If that's true, that's really offensive.
Well, violence is unacceptable. These individuals no longer have a relationship with the DNC. They've never had a relationship with the Clinton campaign. And my understanding is the events that are referenced happened, I think, in February of last year. They did not have a contract with the DNC until June. But putting all that aside, this was a...
Listen to what he just said. These things happened, and he's saying that they didn't have a contract with the DNC. They did have a contract with the DNC. They had an ongoing relationship with the DNC.
Again, a video that was leaked out for the purpose of damaging the campaign. It is edited, so we don't know what the full context is.
You know, he claims that the video was edited, and we don't know what the full context is. The words are coming out of the mouths of these two dirtbags in the video, saying they're committing voter fraud. They use those words. Bob Creamer is a convicted felon. He served prison time. His wife is a congresswoman from Illinois. He went to the White House 345 times. He met with President Obama personally 47 times. He's one of the people that resigned his position once the video came out, which implies guilt. And the other guy, Scott Fovel, whatever his name is, he was fired. These people are running brown shirt operations, and even in the video, if you watch it, they even describe in there how they have to have enough distance from the DNC to establish plausible deniability, which is what you're witnessing right here. We can't elect these people, folks, because once they have the power of the presidency, it's going to be a lot worse than this.
And there's no evidence whatsoever that we have been able to find that anyone...
No evidence whatsoever that we've been able to find. Another qualifier. He's not denying there isn't evidence. He's just saying he can't find the evidence. Just like they couldn't find the emails. And then suddenly someone else had to find 33,000 of them. These people are lying to you, America, and don't let them lie to you. You got to hold them accountable.
Ever did anything like this when they were working for the DNC.
But certainly even if they weren't working for the DNC, if they were Democrats and they were instigating violence, this is horrific.
It's unacceptable for anyone from either party to do that. But again, no one who was working for the DNC or the Clinton campaign was doing that. This is, again, an attempt by Donald Trump to destroy.
They know they weren't working directly for the DNC. That is the whole point. That's the whole point of the video. When you go and see the Project Veritas video, the two guys that were the culprits here explain in excruciating detail exactly how they conduct their operations and how they protect the Democratic National Committee from being sullied by what they're doing. But they also say that Hillary Clinton herself, and that means this guy, Robby Mook, all know exactly what's going on. So this smirking punk is lying to you. This arrogant twerp is lying to you.
Distract from the real issues of this campaign. He's spiraling after his last debate, and he doesn't want to talk about substance. Secretary Clinton is out there talking about real plans that she has. She has made clear she wants to bring Democrats, Republicans, independents together. She's going to...
Yeah, she wants to bring everybody but the deplorables together. Remember that? These are the kind of snakes that are working for the Hillary Clinton campaign. People like Robby Mook, who know the tactics that are going on the ground by guys like Bob Creamer and Scott Fovel, these brown shirt type tactics that they're using, the bussing in of people from one state to another to vote in multiple states multiple times. The voter fraud is massive, and it's happening. Now, I want to make a statement about fraud and voter fraud. You hear a lot of people on the Democrat side say things like, well, there's no evidence of voter fraud. Let me tell you something something about fraud and the way things work in businesses. In business relies on processes. You know, process to pay vendors, a process to record sales, all different kinds of processes. And in that effort, it's important for there to be a certain level of control over each process to ensure that the process is being done correctly and without any misstatement materially. And so there are safeguards put in. And this is why we have auditors. Auditors come in, and auditors, one of the many functions of an auditor is to look at the business process and to see if the business process has enough what's called internal controls. And internal controls essentially are there to flag problems. Not always fraud, but it could be just mistakes, honest mistakes. But it's a process, or internal controls ensure that a process, any process in the business, is being fairly reported. And they have to do that because there are stockholders and shareholders and owners that really require that the business is being run honestly. Now, when you look at the voting process, if there are no internal controls, then the opportunity for fraud is there, and it can happen without detection. So when the Democrats argue there's no evidence of fraud, first of all, that's not true. There is evidence of fraud. But even if we take them at their word and say, okay, there's no evidence of fraud, how would they know if there was fraud anyway? There are no internal safeguards. There are no internal controls that are sufficient in the voting process that would allow us to make that statement. We do not know whether or not there is a little bit of fraud or a lot of fraud. We can't know because there are no internal controls in place. However, we do see evidence because there have been instances like what's happened with this Project Veritas video where people are making claims. We know, for example, about the example of Ike Brown in Noxubee County, Mississippi, where he took absentee ballots by the hundreds and filled them out himself. And he was a Democrat official in that county. He was the top Democrat official in that county. So here's the point. The point is these people cannot be trusted at all. And if you want to see them in power, they are going to do things to ensure that they remain in power. And once they have the power of the presidency, folks, it's over. I want to make sure that everybody understands that, yes, you're watching here, you know, the anatomy of a non-denial denial, but the effect of that is if these people win this election, we're going to have a lot worse than what's going on with Bob Kramer and Scott Fogel. That's it for me, Tony Codispoti from Great Vocal Majority. Thanks for listening, everybody.